Anger works. That's why people keep going back to it. It gives you something immediate: certainty, strength, protection, energy, and maybe most addictive of all, righteousness. For a moment, it feels like power, but that's the trap. Because the same anger that makes you feel strength can slowly become the thing deciding how you talk, how you react, and who you become when the pressure hits. I'm Ryan Suave, a therapist with over 10,000 hours of clinical experience. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about why anger feels so powerful, why people get loyal to it, and how to stop needing it in order to feel in control. First off, anger itself is not a bad emotion. Anger is an appropriate emotion to feel. And when we can experience and use the energy that it creates to establish boundaries and to keep them, it can be something that's very functional for our well-being and mental health in general. We're talking about when the expression of anger an overreaction and begins to create destruction in its path. This type of anger can give you a sense of certainty the moment that the situation begins to feel ambiguous or out of control. It gives you energy when you feel flooded, cornered, or too depleted to stay present in the moment. And it can give you a sense of protection from the softer emotions like grief, shame, fear. And it can give you a target when sitting in confusion or not knowing what to do feels way too uncomfortable. And in this way, anger, and specifically this kind of misappropriation of the expression, is not the problem. It's a solution. It's giving you something. It's the solution that your body may have found for fear, uncertainty, and powerlessness. In a tense moment, anger can actually make your voice clearer, your point sharper, have another person back down fast. And that can look like power, especially in situations where force is mistaken for leadership. But people on the other side of this reaction become more guarded, less honest, and less likely to tell you the truth about what's happening. You can look like you win the room, but still lose the trust, loyalty, and the honesty about what's happening in the room. The irony of this is when anger and control become your strategy, you don't really have power over people. You actually teach them to manage you, which leaves you with less honesty, less control, and actually less power than you might feel you have in the moment. There's usually something underneath it: fear, shame, sadness, feeling dismissed or disrespected. That comes first. And then the anger comes over top of that to protect the person from letting anybody see that they might be experiencing what they deem as weaker emotions. In this way, anger steps in like a bodyguard to protect the person from having to be vulnerable. And vulnerability can be terrifying. One of my friends always says that the definition of vulnerability is the willingness to be wounded, to be able to show yourself, warts and all, and stand in the face of what you might perceive as judgment and be really afraid. And anger can cover that up really quickly. A person can smell these underlying emotions coming from a mile away, and the moment before it is expressed, the anger comes in, and they're in reaction, maybe even rageful. But if you only track the anger, you miss the data of what's happening underneath it. And the real shift can happen when you stop asking yourself, why am I angry? And start asking yourself, what came just before the anger? While I've been sober from drugs and alcohol for a long time, I'll often say that I'm more addicted to being right than I ever was alcohol or drugs. And that can still show up in my daily life. Why is righteousness so important to people? Why does it feel good in the moment? Well, being right means we've got the right perception about the situation. And if we're really right, then we can know what's happening, then we can know the ways to survive it. So in a way, righteousness or being right can feel like safety. I'm right, you're wrong, I know the rules, I know how to play the game, and I therefore know how to win. But when we play like this, life becomes very black and white. There's not always right and wrong, there's ambiguity in the middle of it. You know, there's emotional nuance, there's the different ways that people perceive what's happening. And this righteousness can allow you to feel like you're morally certain or even superior in the face of powerlessness or the fear that triggered you in the first place. Then our anger becomes justified. I'm right. This person wronged me. I get to live in a state of victimhood and therefore do what we call offending from the victim. It's okay that I'm angry because you're wrong and I'm right. And the problem with justified anger is that you're still the one walking around angry. It's very easy to get other people on my side over something where I feel that there's an injustice. Just talk to somebody about flying, and if you're in a room full of 20 people, all of them will get on board with how terrible it is to fly, and can you believe that the airlines overbooked this and that your bag didn't show up on time, and people will jump on board with you. And you might be actually right about this, but you're walking around with this justified anger and resentment that then you're carrying forward from a situation that happened in the past, even if the past is just a few hours ago, and bringing it into this moment and into current relationships. And it impacts you, even when you are right. So the more that anger gives you this sense of justification, the more you can confuse being activated with being clear. Like you are right all the time. And the problem with that is you miss out on what else is possible. Another one of my friends always says that the biggest price of transformation is being wrong about all the things we've been being right about. To be able to surrender and let go of the way that I see the world, not because I'm wrong, but to start seeing how maybe other people see it. And that to be a great leader or effective communicator, we want to be able to listen to the listening of others. Meaning, how can I hear how you are hearing what's happening? Am I able to get in a place where I can see and understand your perspective, even if I don't agree with it? It doesn't mean that we're giving up something. It means that we're opening up to other possibilities. Otherwise, we can just become addicted to anger and this sense of feeling righteousness and in control. It's almost like its own kind of drug. Most anger patterns like this aren't just showing up later in life. They were built in environments where maybe it was unsafe to be vulnerable, to be wrong, to not be perfect, or to make a mistake. In the environment, specifically in your formative years, you had to stifle in the energy around your expression because you had to manage the feelings of others around you, or you were afraid that if you made a misstep, you were going to be punished or maybe even ignored. And so for some people, they'll respond to the environment by converting this fear and repressed energy into aggression. It might be physical aggression, but it could be mental and emotional aggression. And sometimes we see this aggression turned inward, and that's often when we see people engage in alcohol, drugs, or sex, or other addictive behaviors or substances. But once a pattern like this sets, the body keeps using the pattern in situations where it's not called for. This becomes the gear that you operate in life. And in certain environments, you can even excel, in adult life. If it's a high pressure executive type situation where everybody's kind of very transactional, they might be able to excel in that environment, but then not in an environment that doesn't call for that. And so then when pressure hits, the reaction's almost instant. And instead of being able to look at each situation and use discernment to determine how to respond to it, you're just automatically in a reaction, and often an overreaction, bringing anger to situations that anger isn't required or called for. And in this way, it's not something that's chosen, it's almost choosing for you. Not that you don't have responsibility or accountability, but it's happening so fast that on the other side of it, you're going, I can't believe I reacted like that again, almost in shock. So you're not broken, you're just running an old program in situations it was never designed for, probably leaving a lot of damage in your wake. Real power, though, exists in that gap between the trigger or the situation and the response. That we can be almost like a martial artist that's creating space in order to decide and choose what to do next, rather than just having anger, rage, or some other reaction take over. And the power also lies in the ability to be vulnerable, to be able to not only see where you're wrong at times, but to admit it, to get off of righteousness, to let go of needing to be the smartest one in the room. When we're able to do that, then we're able to actually invent. We want to have disagreement. We want to not know all the time what the outcome's gonna be. Because I promise you, if you stick to the outcome that you want all the time, it will fall short of what it possibly could be. and who you can be in the middle of it. And when you can be in that gap between the trigger, the stimulus, and the response, you can really learn about yourself. You can understand what came first. You can explore what's the narrative that you're running. And in doing that, you can start to unwind old patterns. Each time we're able to create a pause between the stimulus and response, we get stronger. We become almost bigger, and you move more and more towards presence. So the goal in this way is not to get rid of anger. As I said in the beginning, anger can be a very appropriate emotion. If somebody hurts me or wrongs me or is violating my boundaries, it's okay. I want to be able to experience anger. Otherwise, I'm just a doormat. What I don't want to do is then just tear somebody's head off. It's more about me defining what internal boundaries I've let them violate and to shore them up, and what other boundaries I might be able to put in place with them or with other people in the world. So the goal isn't to get rid of anger. It's to stop letting anger make the decisions. You're not going to lose your edge or become less intense in a way that you lose power. In being able to be present and use discernment, you're actually going to slow down and create more power. You're going to be able to see the whole playing field and use the wisdom of your history to achieve great things. You become a person who can feel what's happening without letting it run you. In this video, we talked about how anger takes over when something deeper gets triggered, and how real power sits in that gap between the stimulus and response. But that raises a bigger question. Once you pause and anger's not running the show anymore, what are you supposed to do with the discomfort that sits in that gap? In the next video, I'm gonna break down the master skills taught by Buddha, Seneca, and Christ that show you how to sit with discomfort without being controlled by it, so you can start building the emotional resilience that changes how you handle pressure.